Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. First, I want to say we had a great session this morning. We all got to learn a lot of it about the workforce system in New Mexico, about DWS, what they do, about WIOA, what it does, and all that kind of combines into what the State Workforce Board does. So I appreciate everybody who was able to attend that. For those of us who weren't able to attend, I think we reported everything. Otherwise, we've got some binders that were set up for us. So definitely a lot of information if you want to read through it. All right, well now, this is the next learning experience for our new members, what the board actually does. And with that, I want to call this meeting to order. This is what are we, October 30th meeting of the New Mexico State Workforce Development Board. If I didn't mention it earlier, my name is Joshua Orozco. All right, so first I would like to recognize that it's been a little bit since we've last met. I think looking at the minutes, it was back in March when we met. So it's good to see you all again. We had some issues with quorum. We had some business members termed out. We had a few people who couldn't continue in their positions. And that left us with a deficit of business members. So we couldn't achieve quorum. So that's why during the summer we weren't meeting. But fortunately, through a lot of effort by DWS staff, including sending out messages to chambers, business groups around the state, social media push, leveraging personal or professional networks, we were able to add a lot of new business members, and that allows us to meet today. So thank you to all the effort that went into that. I would like to recognize, though, the board members that either termed out or had to resign. Dale Deckert from Decker Parrish Sabatini, a longtime member, and he termed out. John Crunk, Lincoln County Commissioner, Colby Wilson of the Boys and Girls Club of Central New Mexico, Georgina Frank Tan of Exhibit, Philip Ingram of IPS Services, Judith Cooper of Beck and Cooper Law Firm, Bryn Davis of El Paso Electric, Johannes Kimweo of Inverse Medical, and Ashley Long of Sheet Metal Workers Union 49. So as you can see, a lot of members, for various reasons, couldn't be with us anymore. So, but do want to recognize them for a lot of work that all the years of them combined have been on this board and all the work that they've given us. So appreciate their time with us. Also would like to introduce a lot of new members. We had to refill those positions, and first we have Senator Michael Padilla. If you recall, our board has one Senate member and one House member. Senator Padilla is from the Senate. I believe he was on this board before, and so we welcome him back. Big champion of workforce development. Also, Representative Doreen Gallegos, one of my hometown reps. Good to see her here. Also a big championship of workforce development. So glad she was able to be part of this board. We also have Breezy Gutierrez, New Mexico Public Education Department. Welcome. Luis Reyes of Kit Carson Electric Cooperative. Welcome. We've got Teresa Stewart of Synchronous. There you are. Patricia Chavez of PLC Enterprises. Welcome. Erica Genty of the Better Business Bureau of New Mexico and Southwest Company. Welcome. William Wagner of Centro Sevilla. Welcome. Beth Williams of the Bridge of Southern New Mexico. Welcome. And Arlene Murillo, who was with us earlier, but had to rush back to Sunland Park for a board meeting. So she will be joining us hopefully online, and I think there she is. So make sure to drive safe, Arlene. So as you can see, a lot of new members. So I was very happy that I think all of you were able to join us this morning, learn a lot about what we're doing. feel free as we go through this meeting, if you have any questions, if you need any further explanation on something, please, jump in. I'm happy to get those answers to you. So welcome. All right. So first up, we've got our community partner presentation, and we have Somos un Pueblo Unido. I believe they are online with us. Oh, awesome. We're able to come in person. Thank you for making the. Yeah, she can do that.
It's a happening. You have to be here.
No, have to hold it. You can also put it inside the. Okay.
Hi, everyone. You hear me okay? Marcela Diaz with Somos un Pueblo Unido, and I'm going to let my coworker introduce herself as well.
Hi everyone, Zulema Chavero with Somos un Pueblo Unido.
Next slide, please. We really appreciate the opportunity to come and talk to you all. A lot of folks have a lot of misconceptions about what Somos un Pueblo Unido does, but what I can say is that we are a 30-year organization that organizes in our community, does impact litigation. We do a lot of community-based, participatory-based research, and we're going to share some of that with you because we've done a lot of it around workforce development access, particularly for immigrant workers, immigrant families, and other disadvantaged, hard to reach workers in our communities. And we do a lot of voter education and engagement work. We just organize and do a lot of grassroots policy advocacy. We were founded back in 1995 as a traditional immigrants' rights organization. So how can we make sure that we're integrating mixed status families into the fold and not alienating folks? And so we've just done a lot of work around driver's licenses, making sure that immigrant students have access to a college education, paying in-state tuition, and obtaining financial aid. And just we're doing a lot of work around workers' rights issues in general. And we are statewide. We do a lot of state policy advocacy as well as local policy advocacy where we are. And we are headquartered in Santa Fe, which is where we were founded. But we mostly do work in rural communities, especially rural communities where immigrants are helping grow population or helping those counties avert population losses. And so we are in Gallup, we are in Farmington or San Juan, Santa Fe, Rio Arriba. We have offices that are staffed in Artesia and in Hobbs and in Roswell. And so we think of ourselves as a horseshoe around the Rio Grande corridor. And our sort of headquarters is up in Santa Fe. So we're going to talk a little bit about the work that we've been doing. We often talk about economic justice for low-wage workers, immigrant workers, mixed status families as sort of a three-phased in approach. And so for years, we had to just ensure that there was enough community education in the immigrant community and enough community education across the board with government officials and with business to ensure that immigrant workers weren't getting their wages stolen, had, basic health and safety protocols in place in their workplaces, and ensuring that they were meeting, that they were able to take advantage of some basic standards. So that was phase one of our economic justice approach. Then we're trying, we've done a lot of work around making sure that folks have sick leave, raising the wages, but we know that we can't raise minimum wages to $35 an hour. So we really started doing work in accessing and bettering access for our families to workforce development programs, adult education, integrated education training programs, wraparound support services. So we want to talk just briefly a little bit about who our base is in New Mexico. And so if you could go to the next slide, that would be good. Most of this probably won't be a surprise to folks who are in the workforce development, who are workforce development practitioners or in the field or industry leaders. But about 10% of immigrants, 10% of New Mexico's population is foreign born. But we, of course, don't think of ourselves as just immigrants. We're a part of bigger families. Many of our children were born in New Mexico. And so there are a lot of misconceptions about immigrant families in our communities. I would say one of the major misconceptions is that we're sort of migratory by nature. A lot of the immigrants that are here in New Mexico, mostly from Mexico, and other parts of Latin America, but certainly it's international, but that 78% of us are from Latin America. We are in mixed status families. We go to rural communities and urban communities and really set roots and really grow businesses. And so here's some information. About a third of us are undocumented. About a third of us are in that sort of very big spectrum of lawful permanent residence, humanitarian visas, DACA. And so here are some basic information about a little over a third of us are naturalized citizens. We have about 55,000 lawful permanent residents in the state of New Mexico who are eligible to become naturalized citizens, but there are so many barriers for them, particularly in rural communities. They don't have access to immigration attorneys, low cost or no cost legal services. The fees are increasing on a daily basis. And most recently, it's become actually a little bit more difficult to be able to adjust status for lots of different reasons. And so a lot of our organizations like Somos un Pueblo Unido have citizenship programs to help decrease those barriers so that not only can we become US citizens and more fully engage in the civic life and economic life of our communities, but also so that we have better opportunities, because once you become a US citizen, you actually have access to even more jobs. And so that's really important to us as well, if you have the training, access to the training to do them, and to the certifications and to the credentials. And so it's one of the things that we're really working on now. We have about 6,000 DACA recipients in the state of New Mexico, and their legal status is very precarious and as well. And so it's something that a lot of community-based organizations in New Mexico are trying to work on. And even though we only make up about 10% of the population, we have an outsized impact on the economy and on the workforce. We are mostly in construction, accommodations and food services, oil and gas, agriculture, and also health services. About 13% of the home healthcare providers in the state of New Mexico are immigrants. And so we are constantly trying to figure out how we can create more opportunities, particularly for immigrant women in the childcare, early childhood education space, as well as in the home healthcare space, with more credentials and opportunities to make more money, which is really important. And we also like to talk about immigrant entrepreneurship. About 16%, according to the American Immigration Council, of Main Street businesses in New Mexico are immigrant owned. And so we are very much tied to every aspect of the economy while we make up 10% of the community. Next slide, please. I don't know where you all are from, but I imagine all over the state. And so I do like to talk about, sorry, I'm having a little bit of problems here. I do like to talk about where we have some of the highest percentages of foreign born in our state. So these are all counties and cities that have higher shares than the state share, right? So it's 10%. So we are based in some of these communities, but Luna County actually has the highest. Deming, 19%, Doñana County, 18%. You can see the numbers here. But we try to work with and organize in these communities, or work with organizations, community-based organizations that work in these communities, to really help their local economic development departments, their local workforce boards, their local community colleges, really connect more with the growing immigrant populations. Now, you all know that we are experiencing stagnant growth and some real challenges when it comes to population. But in regions, for instance, in the Southeast, who here is from the Southeastern New Mexico? I see you. It's a real vibrant hotspot for population growth, particularly in Lee County. These were some of the counties that saw a major influx in the last 15 years. And we're basing this on American Community Survey and the last census, a real increase in Latinos and in immigrants and foreign-born workers and families coming and moving to these communities. And so we always say, how can we better take advantage of those hotspots and make sure that people are much more engaged in their local economy, their workforce development systems, so that we can keep them there, right? Because this is something that is really important for the future growth of our state. Next slide, please. So we talked a little bit about what Somos un Pueblo Unido does and what we do with other community-based organizations. We believe that we have in our communities a lot of information to share with policymakers, with industry leaders, with our politicians, with folks, our state agencies. And so we do a lot of community-based research with different academic institutions. And here are just some of them. We're going to talk about two specifically today to highlight how we do our work and how we're trying to get other community-based organizations, worker-based organizations to also participate in workforce development advocacy. And so our first one really around workforce development was a study that we did with the UNM Center for Social Policy, which we have, and we have several copies here for folks that really did a deep dive. They interviewed and had focus groups and surveys with about 100 oil and gas workers and family members to really understand what the conditions were in the Permian Basin for a lot of these workers, what their hopes and dreams were, and what they really wanted not just to move up within their own industry, but also to have opportunities for women. It's one of the things that our members have really been talking about a lot, like how do we get women into more, how do we upskill, how do we have women be able to enter the workforce in different places. And right now, there aren't that many opportunities for them. So we're just working with a lot of community partners to figure out how we can improve those opportunities. You know, we work with UNM and the Department of Workforce Solutions. It's not hard for us to go out into community and get folks to participate in focus groups, surveys, community meetings. And so those are some of the things that we've been able to do. We've worked with the National Skills Coalition to do this report that really stems from not just top-line research, but also a deep dive into what workers want. So part of what we're doing is really trying to elevate not just the voice of workers in the workforce development space, but also really try to help be good partners in program design and also get folks to know, because that's one of the biggest barriers, get folks to know that there are opportunities for them. They just need to know about them. And then also we're obviously trying to improve and strengthen the opportunities that exist. One of the other things that Zulema is going to talk about is a really terrific program that we're doing with the city's Santa Fe's Office of Economic Development to really create a comprehensive workforce development plan, not just for immigrant workers, but all workers as a part of our economic development strategy update in Santa Fe. So we have some of these for you, and you can also get them at our website at somosunpueblounido.org. Next slide. So in 2024, we finalized this report with the University of New Mexico. Again, they interviewed about 100 workers, and we were really focused on what the social and structural barriers for immigrant oil and gas workers, young adults in the Permian Basin, and women continue to be, although we're really trying to tackle those one by one. And so if you go to the next slide, none of these things will surprise you, but what we found, this is how we got into workforce development issues in the first place, was that a lot of the structural and social barriers that immigrant oil and gas families were facing in the Permian Basin region are a lot of the same structural and social barriers that disadvantaged, hard to reach workers, rural workers, women with children are facing across the state. And so first we got to really understand why these structural barriers exist. And so we've done a lot of research and road mapping and have talked to a lot of you in this room to really help us understand the breadth of the workforce development system, because wow, is it hard to wrap your mind around sometimes. There's a lot to it, not just I mean, really, there's a lot to it. And so part of our job is to help our community understand it and to help other CBOs understand it so that we can all participate in this process with you all. And so not a surprise, you've heard this, I'm sure, many places. Some of the barriers for disadvantaged or hard to reach workers is a lack of childcare. Not a surprise. And it's not because the subsidies aren't there. It's not because the support isn't there. It's just because we don't have enough childcare workers, particularly in these rural communities and in a lot of urban communities. And so not only does that stop a lot of women from being able to train, to go to ESL classes, and to participate in the workforce development system or in adult education at their local community colleges, it obviously is impacting their ability to work. And then that impacts their mostly husbands or their spouses and partners. They really do have to work those 12 to 16-hour days because a lot of our folks who are immigrants in the oil and gas industry don't have access to unemployment benefits when there are downturns because they are undocumented, not all, but many. Also don't have pensions and won't access, if they're undocumented, their Social Security benefits when they retire. They pay into the system, but they're not able to get it out, again, because they're undocumented. And so what we see is just people working 12 to 15-hour days, that including their drive time to and from work. And so they're working those extra hours, don't have a lot of time at the end of the day to train either in another industry or to even move up within their industry. And so this also impacts the women and the families. And so childcare is definitely one of the big issues. We also just found that that the state really wasn't investing a lot of funding in the workforce development and adult education space. We were highly reliant on federal funding up until about 2 years ago when we really started advocating for more braided funding around some of these programs. Access to federally funded training programs for immigrants and other underserved communities was also a big issue. You all know the WIOA system and how restrictive it is. It's particularly restrictive for immigrants if we do not have certain immigration status. Accessible transportations really, again, in rural areas is a big issue for our folks. And then when there were programs that existed, people just didn't have the information. And so that's why CBOs really play an important part, community-based organizations, in helping recruit folks from the community and distribute information in, we can say culturally competent ways, but in ways that we know people are going to get the information. And that's something that organizations like ours are really good at. We also found that a lot of these programs were not available in Spanish or other languages. And so a lot of these jobs don't require certifications that folks be fully fluent in English. And so we're really missing out when we don't have some of these certificate programs and credentialing programs in Spanish. We also saw that there weren't a lot of, in the Southeast, for lots of different reasons, a lot of training programs in renewable energy programs. And then something that a lot of folks don't know is that undocumented immigrant youth who grew up here do have access to in-state tuition and financial aid for credit programs and non-credit programs, but undocumented immigrants, adults who didn't grow up in the state don't, even though they've been paying taxes here and have really worked for a long time in the state of New Mexico. And so these are just examples of some of the structural barriers. Now, I'll give you a couple of anecdotal stories, and this is, talking to one of our members in Hobbs, was just saying, it really takes, depending on the situation, between 5 and 10 years to go from one area in the industry and to making more money into a safer part of the industry. And I said, well, what is the barrier? And they said, well, we don't have access to a lot of training programs, and we also don't have time to learn English. And we said, well, there are really good programs in Hobbs that offer ESL classes. And they said, yeah, but the classes are in the afternoon or during the day. We don't get home until 7 o'clock at night. So these are a lot of barriers that they were facing and dealing with. One of the other problems that we saw in Carlsbad, for instance, was they had a very robust ESL program at their community college through their adult education department, but they had a waiting list of 100 people because they really were offering very good programs that met the needs of the community members. So they had an earlier afternoon class for women mostly and folks that weren't in the industry. And then they had a much later evening class so that people could come after their long work days. And so those were examples of the things that we were finding this. So if you go to the next one, and this is all in this thing that we just passed out in this report, and this is the summary. You can look at the full report online. But what we saw in the Southeast was that people really did want across the board. They wanted training. They wanted training that was multilingual. They needed more wraparound support services. They needed supplemental income for short job training. They were willing to and are willing to travel if transportation and lodging, if it's easily accessible. They're also willing to do satellite programs online. A lot of folks do know, according to this study, know how to use computers, can do online programming. They just need a place in these communities where they can do it, where there are computers, where they have some quiet, where they're open after hours. And so these are the kinds of things that we're learning through all of our community-based research in the Southeast. But again, when we polled a lot of our members across the state, we saw that was something that was happening. So what are we doing about it? Next slide. We have been attending the DWS WIOA update meetings, and that's what we did last year or a couple of years ago. We advocated at the state level for the Sustainable Economy Task Force and funding for a Just Transition Advisor for that task force, but that is kind of a defunct task force at this point. It hasn't met for since the beginning of the year, but it was meeting and we were participating in it. We worked to get funding for a feasibility study for the Department of Workforce Solutions, which you can see at the Department of Workforce Solutions website on how we could actually expand unemployment insurance to excluded workers like mixed status workers, immigrant workers. We partner a lot with state agencies to help figure out how to use the fund, because we advocate for a lot of funding at the state level for not just the Department of Workforce Solutions and wraparound support services, but also adult education, to expand integrated education training programs, which marry adult ed programs and certificate programs and credentialing programs at these community colleges. A really great evidence-based, successful type of program that helps not just immigrant workers, but others who don't have high school equivalency or have low adult literacy rates. And so these are the kinds of things that we have been advocating for at the state level very successfully. And then we're very excited that 2 years ago, and this program is growing, we got a law passed at the state legislature, House Bill 303, 2024, that creates a cash transfer program for low-income workers and students who are in integrated education training programs, because we knew that when you're a low-wage worker working at least 2 jobs or 1.5 jobs, you don't have a lot of time at the end of the day to take a training program, right? And to get a welding certificate or an energy auditing certificate or go through a CDL program. And so we were able to, and this is kind of an unprecedented program, but it's a cash transfer, $1,000 a month up to 12 months, as long as you're enrolled in one of these certificate programs. This program is up and running. You can go to the Adult Education Division's website. There's a hotline there where you can call and get information. This is a really exciting program. It's not just for immigrants. It's for any low-wage worker who needs a little extra money at the end and to work fewer hours and to really be able to focus on this, on their certificate program and credentialing program. And so if you go to the next, these are some of our budget wins in this last legislative session. we were able to put additional funding and really advocate and educate from the grassroots perspective, a lot of our legislators about what is needed in the adult education system for our members and other disadvantaged workers and rural workers throughout the state. And so that's kind of where we're starting. We got an additional $2 million to expand that cash transfer program, which is called New Mexico Ascend. And we worked to get $17 million for the Department of Workforce Solutions and really made sure that there was language in there to allow the Department of Workforce Solutions to use some of that funding through the Community Benefits Fund for wraparound support services, because that was really missing in our community. And then we worked to get $10 million for adult education programs and wraparound support services. Now, as a result, I'll just give you 2 or 3 little nuggets of exciting things that have happened. And they may seem small to you, but they're a very big deal for our members in Hobbs. So now in Hobbs, there is an integrated education training program to help English language learners get a CDL license, but as they're training for that, they are getting intensive ESL training at the same time. And because this is an integrated education training program that is supported by this extra funding that immigrant workers advocated for at the Roundhouse, our members who are citizens or lawful permanent residents, and we have many, now have access to that program that has been designed for immigrant workers. And while they're doing it, they can get $1,000 a month up to 12 months. And so they can work fewer hours in their job so that they can actually focus on this. That is really exciting. And now our members in that part of the state are actually reaching out across the county who wants to do this. So not only are we helping design the programs, get funding for the programs, but then we're actually doing a lot of the recruitment for the programs. And that's what CBOs can do if they're ready in this system. If you go to the next slide, this is just information about New Mexico Ascend. Really exciting. It's integrated education training programs, but we can actually go beyond integrated education. It's in its pilot phase. But as a result of the money that immigrant workers advocated for at the state legislature, we have seen in 1 year, a 35% increase in adult education departments across the state offering integrated education training programs. 22 new programs have been supported by that initial $5 million flexible funding for adult education. We've seen a 50% enrollment increase of immigrants and non-immigrants in these integrated education training programs. And again, that it helps when working with CBOs to actually do a lot of that recruitment. And we've seen a 44% increase from 2024 from 2023 in certificates obtained. Currently, there are about 800 students in these integrated education training programs. So these are the kinds of things that when partnering with CBOs who really know what the barriers are and the opportunities are in our communities, that we can start really having opportunities to have economic mobility in our communities, but also we'll have opportunities to improve this low labor participation rate and to actually have folks who are very mature in the labor force, who are seasoned workers, be able to meet some of the other needs of our industries. And so I'm going to turn it over to Zulema, who's going to talk about a really great program that we're doing in Santa Fe and that we want to expand into other communities around the state.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcela. It's funny that I don't get nervous until I'm in front of the microphone, especially in presentations that have to be in English. And after my boss presenting, it's kind of a big pressure on my shoulders. But I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in Santa Fe locally in terms of workforce development. And we started 2 years ago. The city of Santa Fe and Somos un Pueblo Unido were granted a very competitive benefit sponsored by Welcoming America and the National Immigration Council. And what they did is they created a report, a tailored report about Santa Fe County and about immigrants' contributions to our county. So some of the highlights, you can see them on the slide, and I'm not going to be long with that, but we found that 16,000 immigrants live in Santa Fe, and they represent 11.1% of the total population. And even though they're 11.1% of the population, they represent 15.2% of its working age population and 15% of the employed labor force. So that tells you a lot about the participation in the labor force from immigrants in Santa Fe. And the process, after we did the report, they also help us with the technical assistance and developing a plan to implement in the city for this expansion of the inclusion of immigrants. And we found out that the interest of the members of our community was being included in the economy in workforce development. So we initiated a process by adopting data-informed strategy, collaborating with the Northern Area Local Workforce Development Board to gather pertinent data on workforce growth industries within the city of Santa Fe. And as you can see, there's 6 sectors: it's healthcare, education, including early childhood education, recreation, accommodations, hotels and restaurants, construction, and entrepreneurship. So after that, we form a group, a stakeholders working group, formed by employers, workers in these key industries, and also educators or training providers in Santa Fe. After meeting a few times, we decided that we wanted to do a survey among workers working in these industries to find out about barriers and about supporting services that these workers needed in order to access workforce development opportunities. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So the findings, I'm gonna just talk a little bit about the findings and highlight some interesting information about the surveys. And we found that 70% of the respondents agreed that in the development of marketing program to immigrants, it was important for our government to collaborate with immigrant-based community organizations. In the healthcare sector, 90% of the participants said they were interested in certification and training at work, and 50% didn't know about existing training opportunities. Another thing that we found out is that 75% of construction workers weren't aware of existing trainings or certifications to have their own business or to become contractors. And 85% of workers in the accommodation industry are interested in English as a second language classes and other training related to workforce development. So those were key findings that help us establish the strategic plan, actionable items. And as you can see, we came up with 4 specific items, and one of them was a comprehensive public information campaign. And we're working with the city of Santa Fe. In fact, the city of Santa Fe allocated money, ARPA money, to contract a workforce development specialist. No, I'm talking about the workforce development. I'm sorry, I got mixed up. Well, anyways, we want to develop a public information campaign. We're continuing working with the city of Santa Fe, and we, Somos un Pueblo Unido, hire a specialist to gather information and have an inventory of existing resources for training, workforce development, apprenticeships available in Santa Fe, including the requirements in those for everybody, not just for immigrants. Obviously, also including the requirement of immigration status. So one of the things that we're doing on this is we are organizing a special event in December, and it's a job fair event in workforce development Empower. And we're gonna have the community college with key departments providing bilingual information to workers about admissions, about adult education, about the IETs that Marcela was talking about, and about all the available resources at the community college, and also employers from Santa Fe offering job openings, and of course the city of Santa Fe talking about entrepreneurship programs in their initiatives. So we also came up with the pilot supplemental income program for low-income workers. And we know that recurring cash transfer programs are proven solution to increasing employment and training. And this is because Somos un Pueblo Unido, along with other organizations during the pandemic, we did a pilot program on supplemental income. And we had pretty good results, and we came up with the conclusion that this kind of help really improve the lives of workers and helps the economy overall. So that's the supplemental income workforce development plan. We're working with the city. That's the one that they allocated ARPA money to hire a specialist on workforce development. And it's already on the works. We actually had a meeting last week with them and several stakeholders around the city to put up on the table some ideas and brainstorm about how to create this plan, workforce development plan. Because before we have the economic development plan, the big economic development plan, but we didn't have a workforce development plan. So this is one thing that we got through the G4G program plan. So that's on the works. And what else I was gonna say? We'll continue having meetings with the specialist, and she's working on this plan. And the last one is an entrepreneurship center. And as I said in our surveys, I don't know if I mentioned that, but many workers, and especially in the entrepreneurs, they didn't feel supported. They needed information. They felt that the system was too complicated as immigrant entrepreneurs. So the idea is to create a center where they can find, all entrepreneurs can find all the information they need in order to move forward their businesses. So those are the actionable items, and I'm gonna pass it to Marcela.
Thanks, everyone. Moral of the story is community-based organizations. One of the things, if you move it to the next slide, we're going to keep doing this kind of advocacy work. We gave you a taste of what we're doing at the state level with our state agencies and with the legislative advocacy that our members are doing. We have 30 years experience passing laws, getting laws passed at the state legislature and at the local, and then also doing it at the local level. One of the big things that we're going to be working on in the next year is getting other community-based organizations like Somos that aren't just immigrant-based, but that have other constituency bases to get trained up, understand what took us 3 years to really understand in this very complex workforce development system of yours, to get them to understand it and to really start getting folks to participate more on your boards, at these meetings, at these forums with industry partners. Because if you ask people who are impacted, what are your barriers and what are the solutions, you will get answers. And then we can collectively do that work and make sure that we are supporting each other in this. So that's what we do. And we, again, I'm not going to name everyone, but there are so many people in this room that we relied on to help us shape our workforce equity roadmap with the CBOs here in our state. So thank you. You know who you are. Any quick questions for us?
Any questions for Marcelo Zulema? All right.
Well, thank you so much. Somosunpueblonido.org.
Thank you so much for that presentation. Really great work you guys are doing. It's very important to help people overcome those barriers, and especially communicating what we're doing and all the benefits that are available to those populations. Thank you so much for what you do. Thank you. So one of the things I forgot to do, that I wanted to do, because we have so many new members, is kind of explain as we're going through agenda, kind of what we do. So we just had a presentation from a community partner. That's an organization that's in the community who is helping, I guess, on the mission, do the mission of workforce development in our state. So we like to bring those in. One, it kind of educates us on different partners in the state that are doing things. Also, it's a way for us to kind of plant seeds in our brains, make connections with other groups doing things. So we like to bring other groups in. So that's kind of what we're doing. I just was told we're gonna skip over. Can we do that with Google? Okay, so are they not here yet? No. Okay. So the next item on our agenda is an economic development presentation. Kind of under the similar vein. We want to know what is going on around the state. What is the different communities? What's their economic development plan? What's going on? Because economic development informs what we need to be doing as workforce development. Unfortunately, they are not here and they may not make it. So I think we will have to skip over that for now. We will move on then to the next update, which is partner update. So again, we learned that there are 4 local workforce development regions in our state. And so we meet 4 times a year. So it makes sense that we have one of them come in and give us an update on what they're doing. So today we have Beth Elias from the Eastern Area Workforce Development Board. So Beth, if you want to come let us know what you're doing. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. I was asked several months ago to prepare a presentation to update the state board on the local plan, as you guys spent, well, many of you spent a lot of time and effort working on the state plan, and then the local plans followed. So all of the boards have been asked at some point to present to you what is in our local plans that ties into your plan. So that's what I'm here to do today. So as you can see, the Eastern region, for those of you that don't know, is the entire eastern side of the state. We are geographically the largest board in the state with 44,000 square miles. And we go all the way from Texas to the top. So it makes delivery of services a little bit of a daunting task at times. So next slide, please. The board's primary focus and mission is to align the workforce development system strategically with economic development, with all of the partners to try and create and generate and sustain a cohesive and collaborative system that puts the workforce development resources aligned to a unified vision and mission. That's been our whole goal since inception. We've had some successes, some backslides, and then more success. And then it just kind of ebbs and flows. And then as administration changes, I know you guys have all worked through that. Then you back up and start over or rebuild. So slide, please. Our strategic vision is to create a dynamic, skilled workforce that is able to have mobility throughout the workforce. They're upwardly mobile. They have the basic skills and the soft skills that they need to be successful. We want to promote regional economic growth by working with our economic developers to find out what they're hearing in terms of business needs and what we find from the offices on what's needed to try and create the tools and skills within the workforce development system that the economic developers need to pull good paying jobs into our economy. We want to address the barriers to unemployment and to underserved populations. You know, anybody that's worked in workforce development, particularly in regional, rural regions or rural areas, knows that that becomes more difficult to do. You have a lot of underserved populations in those rural areas because the infrastructure is not there to just have this program or that CBO or this education program be able to attach to it and work with it, because then you have no foundation. So everything has to be built from scratch. The strategic priorities within our state and local plans, ours aligns with yours, as I mentioned, has a sector focus on energy, healthcare and behavioral health, education, including early childhood, the construction trades. Our goal towards sector strategies is to try and get to a place where we're working strategically on targeted sectors to better align the resources as staff decline because of, funding cuts or programmatic changes or whatever those reasons may be. We need to be more strategic in how we target our man hours within the workforce development system, as well as all of the resources within the partner programs to achieve a unified mission. We want to upskill the workforce and expand training opportunities, including apprenticeship and pre-apprenticeship. A lot of the jobs in the East show negative growth for post-secondary education. So most of the jobs want man hours right now, and they'll train from within. And that's why we've had many a conversation with Scott on how do we expand that and provide better opportunities, even for some of the programs that are currently structured as associate's degrees or post-secondary credentials, to take those in an earn and learn model and make that more beneficial to the populations working in the area, where they can enter the workforce faster and the employers have the much needed labor they've been asking for. And we want to focus on demand and durable skills. And I'm just going to use AI and Microsoft and STEM as some examples of things that are pretty universal across all of the employers, and everybody needs them. And we know that with studies that we've done in focus groups, that the digital literacy in the Eastern region in these rural communities is horrible. So focusing on some of those things are going to make employers have a higher capacity with their new hires to be able to hit the ground running. The other thing we want to focus on is improving youth engagement. We want to improve career readiness and soft skills. We also want to really focus on teaching the youth how to continue to learn, how to be upwardly mobile, and how to continue to progress throughout their careers and set the goals and milestones that they need to. Just like it's normal for many families to teach that at home, it's also not in some of these youth that we serve. So we want to do the best we can to give them the foundational pieces that they need to do that. We want to, as a workforce system, not just a board, but we want to work with the partners to do a better job to support those at-risk populations that, as was previously mentioned, do not always have access to the wraparound services that they need to be able to continue to train or continue to grow their careers, in a way that is functional for their family. Okay. The workforce system strengths. We have pretty comprehensive partnerships with our local partners. We have really strong engagement within the adult education and literacy programs. We have excellent partnership with the Title III and DWS programs. We also have very strong relationships. We're fortunate that, if we're going to have 44,000 square miles to cover, it's nice that we have a 4-year university and 7 community colleges to partner with to meet the needs of the businesses within the region. We have a wide variety of training opportunities. The post-secondary, as we mentioned, one of the strengths that's not mentioned here that is part of this is the willingness of the partners within the region to be flexible and try and find a solution. So if this class or this training program is not working in this time structure or within this environment, then they'll back up and figure it out. We just all come to the table and try and find solutions. And that's one of the biggest strengths that we have. We have good use within the Title I program of on-the-job training funding for employers. customized training, incumbent worker training, all of those are things that you are already familiar with. I don't know if you covered it this morning or not, but that's just one of the things that the Title I program is working to expand, since it directly benefits the business community prior to people coming in from the post-secondary realm. We have strong collaboration with economic development and chambers of commerce and the workforce, as I mentioned, education partners. Some of the challenges, we saw this, we've been seeing this over the last several local plan cycles. We're seeing, and it's not just our region, most of rural New Mexico is seeing a population decline, but it was more pronounced in this last planning cycle than it has been in the past. We lost 7,500 people since 2020, and this data was at the time that we formed the local plan, because we felt like you wanted to see what was in our local plan. It's more now, but that was a pretty significant population decline in a 4-year period for a rural area. We have low labor force participation rates. We're 57.2 versus the national average of 63.3. And that is for individuals, well, for the prime workforce age is even worse, but that first set of numbers is individuals 16 and over. When you look at the numbers for the prime workforce, 25 to 54, the participation rate is 73.6 in the East versus 82.8 in nationally. So what that tells us as a region is that we have got to do a better job of reaching the 16 to 24 and the older workers to engage them in the workforce system if those employers are going to have those empty positions filled. We have significant skill gaps in key areas such as healthcare, technology, and manufacturing. We have worked very diligently as a region for the last 15 years to train high numbers of individuals for the healthcare field, and that includes nursing, the therapies, behavioral health, all of those. And we've done well with that, but there's only so much you can do. We have to work to align the partners to be driving their funding for those resources and trainings as well. The top industries in the region are healthcare, but that's not a surprise to anyone. That's everywhere and all across the state. Then energy and education. Emerging opportunities are renewable energy. We have a strong solar presence, wind presence across the region. Then AI is expanding, and aviation and aerospace. The base in Roswell, well, Roswell has one of the longest runways in the country. So it's used heavily for a lot of training operations that can't take those larger planes. And so that has driven a lot of aerospace expansion in the region. Some of the barriers are low wages for many of the industries. Then housing is a huge problem. If you can get the workforce there, then you don't have any place for them to live. Or if they do, it is not affordable. They cannot make it. You'll have 5 people sharing a 3-bedroom apartment to try it. And, you know, some legislative stuff, we could have conversations about some things that could help with that. But transportation can be a challenge. We've had tent cities and so forth when oil and gas is booming and even when there was construction going on in Hobbs, people were sleeping in their cars in Jowell because there was no place to stay. No hotels, no apartments, no nothing. And then trying to get back and forth to work was a challenge. There are limited as she mentioned, advanced education opportunities for those that are working. The advanced opportunities don't always fit into the work schedule for those that are trying to do these jobs in these communities. Next slide, please. Performance goals that we included in the plan. And I know I'm kind of doing a racehorse model through this plan, but initially when we were asked to do this, I was told, please, 15 minutes. So, you know, it's kind of hard to condense 180, 90 pages into 15 minutes. So some of the performance goals we had for the region were to increase employment and workforce participation rates, which I think that's been a topic of conversation, not only nationally, but all across New Mexico. We want to reduce the skill gaps and focus on the high demand sectors. And I know that's a workforce development buzz phrase, but what we mean by that is focusing heavily on targeted sector strategies. And we want to expand access to workforce services in the rural areas. One of the things that we've done to help achieve this, and that you'll see it on another slide, is we have put out some remote access points, which is basically like a kiosk computer that ties people to services in our offices and allows them to schedule to meet with staff that are, for example, Curry County, the Clovis office serves 7 counties. So people can utilize these rural access points to get on and connect with someone in the nearest office to them and schedule an appointment to meet with them. Future initiatives, we want more rural access points, affectionately known as RAPs, to expand services in the very rural communities. We want to continue to strengthen the partnerships that we have and grow them to include more community-based organizations that don't necessarily have all of the restrictions in place that you have with the federal funding. And also to streamline service delivery and continue to remove or reduce redundancy. I know the East has been part of piloting some work that's being driven at the state level to help with that. And hopefully that bears a lot of fruit pretty quick. Some of the future initiatives that will be accomplished through continuing to collaborate to support the workforce system, not just the Eastern Board's goals, not just the Title I goals, not just the DWS goals, but if I have a program goal that is counterproductive to Voc Rehab or TANF, then I'm not going to be able to partner with them in those. So I have to work to align the system goals with what the partners must achieve as well. We have to create the win-wins for the entire workforce system. We want to continue to invest in education, skills development, and economic growth. We are not going to be able to do anything in that without utilizing the partnerships and to provide wraparound services for those that can't make it through an education or training program without them. Are there any questions on the local plan? Because I was also asked to do a brief overview on what we've done with the National Dislocated Worker Grant. I wanted to do a stop in between to see if you had any questions on the local plan before I moved on.
Any questions?
I have one. Do you have data or metrics, I'm not holding you to it, about like how many open positions, like at any given time, maybe by sectors, you have like how many the job need in the area?
We do have data on
Yeah.
that. I don't have it on me,
Gotcha.
but we do have it. We do have access to it. And I would say sometimes there may be, because we use multiple data sources. I don't know if this board is aware of it, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics and Economic Research and Analysis Bureau is driven by some confidentiality challenges around rural data, because if you have a limited number of employers, or if the information that is disclosed would identify that employer, you can't use that. So we have some outside labor software that we use, and there's, there can be a little bit of a lag in that data. But yeah, we have some pretty good real-time data with that caveat. Yes.
What's your idea behind the rural access points? Like, what are you trying to?
What we're trying to do is we put computer kiosks and information brochures for not just our offices, but the partner programs. So I think we have 5 now. We either have 4 and are getting ready to put the 5th one up, or we have 5 and are getting ready to do a 6th. But I believe it's 5 and getting ready to do 6. So we've put these in very rural locations. And you will have a stand brochure for all of the partner services that are available. We have a dashboard that allows them to navigate and surf to see what's available within those programs. And then there's a way to connect. There's also video tutorials to walk them through navigating the information.
Anybody else? All right, I guess we can go on.
Okay, so we'll move on to the National Dislocated Worker Grant. What this is, and we call it the NDWG, because, National Dislocated Worker Grant, when you're saying it 16 times a day becomes a mouthful, so DWG, is a grant that we applied for through DWS with their assistance to help respond to the fires that, hit Lincoln and Otero counties a couple of years ago, 18 months ago. So next slide. In June of 2024, actually, it all happened during our end of year board meeting. Ruidoso, Downs, and Lincoln and Otero counties were devastated by those fires, and they ran up and down those mountains and created some pretty massive burn scars. We knew that as fast as that fire was spreading, because as I mentioned, it was happening during a board meeting. We knew as fast as that fire was spreading, we were going to need to, apply for some funding. We reached out to Veronica that day from the board meeting. We had conversations with our board members because, the fire is one thing and it was bad. There were a lot of people evacuated that, had to leave their homes, and there were a lot of homes that were destroyed. There was some loss of life, but having been through this before, we knew that the worst part of this was going to come when the rains came. A few years ago in a fire, there was, the Head Benito Reservoir, which is, in a beautiful area of Ruidoso that provided the water supply to Alamogordo. And that area was not touched by the fire at all, but when it rained, all of that watershed went right into Benito Lake and just decimated the water supply there. And just as a random point of information, they were just about to open Benito Reservoir again. They had dredged it and it was a week away from reopening when these fires hit. So we were awarded the grant in July of 24, and we worked. It was really quite an eye-opening thing. Marcos kept saying, I don't know if you're going to be able to get all of this disaster-related employment. Everybody has tried to do it. Nobody's been able to. It's really hard because you have so many agencies coming into those areas that are working. And as is common with WIOA and WIOA-related funding, you have to coordinate with them, and you have to make very sure that you're not paying for anything that someone else can pay for. So everyone was tripping over not even being sure who could pay for what. So being able to get boots on the ground and mobilized quickly enough to respond to the need was a challenge. You can roll to the next slide. One of the things, though, that we were very proud of is that we were able to work immediately once they could get back in there with, well, let me just stick to my slides. We did immediately launch the debris removal. And what we were able to help the End of the Mountain Gods, if you really want to dig into some interesting data, look at how much the End of the Mountain Gods and the Mescalero Reservation provides to the economy of Lincoln and Otero counties. It is unbelievable. We were, meeting with them, and we're told that if we don't get that ski run open on time, that it was going to cost this already heavily impacted community $200 million for the year. So we were able to work and get the End of the Mountain Gods to agree to be the employer. And we placed people that had lost their jobs as a result from the fire to help work on targeted debris removal in areas where the power company had already come, but they couldn't go to these places. And it was, for example, the ski lift was in the middle of the burn run. So while the various agencies could go in and clean up around that, they couldn't do anything on that. So we were able to put labor in place to, allow the people that were still there to go in and inspect those lifts while other people were removing the debris to make it publicly safe. And that ski run did open on time. So we were actually very proud of that. And we are still working to coordinate efforts, but the people that have turned over in those roles has made, as soon as you start to make headway here, then that one is gone and now you're back to square one and starting over. And so it's been a lot more of a challenge in that aspect than we anticipated. So what we have done in the community outreach is we identified partnerships, and we have staff that have attended meetings in the community weekly. We recruited those disaster relief employers. A lot of that has been pretty difficult. We had a lot of them that were recruited and signed up to do it. And then what they wanted to do was going to bump up against FEMA. And that one, this project couldn't be done, or they were afraid of messing with other federal funding they were receiving, and they were worried about jeopardizing that. We did recruit disaster relief employees as well, as I mentioned, because that was a disaster relief employment that allowed that ski run to open. We do still have 3 individuals that are on DRE, but thankfully the tribe has been able to do that. And since they're so key, those areas are so key to the regional economy, it hasn't created a problem. We focused recruitment efforts for long-term unemployed individuals, since the eligibility for this funding is a little bit different from the traditional Title I funding, in that it expands access to those that have been long-term unemployed, and it expands the ways you can document eligibility and certify eligibility for those individuals to receive training. And as a result of that, we've been able to do several partnerships with corrections to train individuals that are within 6 months of release. We've trained over 60 people now. We have another training scheduled for, well, it's not hard scheduled, but we're looking at January to February, depending on training provider availability. And they have overall been really successful for working with that population, and they're able to get out and get jobs that can actually give them the opportunity to not reoffend. They have a chance to make it. We've provided case management services to all of those individuals and co-enrolled them with not only the Title I program, but the Title III program, to provide some of that employment wraparound support that we mentioned in the local plan slide. We've been working to meet the needs through various types of training. We did CDL training, construction training, heavy equipment operator training. We've done allied health for these individuals. As I already mentioned, the collaboration with corrections. We have, well, at this point, when we wrote this, it was 40 people, but we've got 60 people enrolled. And expanded access to the rural training opportunities that would not have been available without this grant, because you can't serve those populations under the traditional formula funding. One of the key benefits of this is it's really strengthened the relationship that we've had with the Mescalero Apache Reservation and the tribe. And you can have, and I'm saying this to you as a workforce board, because I think it's very important that you understand the difference in the nuances in these relationships. I can have a great relationship with the tribe, but some of the things that we saw is, if you try to enroll members of the tribe in training, as soon as they find out it's a government program, they're out the door. That was one of the things that we had challenges with on the DRE. We had 17 people lined up from the tribe that had lost their jobs as a result of the fire. And as soon as they realized they were enrolling in a government program, they said, I'm out. So being able to go in and do the things that we have done has made that a little safer place. It's gained a little trust within the tribal members to be able to continue to go in and support them. We have ongoing training and collaboration with them. We've been able to work with the inn and the tribe to actually train and upskill some of their existing employees so that they can move into higher positions and open some of those lower positions for other individuals that need to go back to work. At the time that we were putting this together, we had 56 long-term unemployed participants enrolled. 32 had already earned an industry credential. Some were still enrolled in training. 6 were employed through DREs, but only 3 are still there. And cleanup continues, as I'm sure if any of you have watched the news, you know that we are still having massive challenges with flash flooding. Many of the residents can no longer insure their homes. You know, it's the ripple effects of this are going to be seen for years and years and years to come. We need. Was that what that was? Okay, well, I'm at 1 minute. All right. So we're going to continue coordination with FEMA and NMDWS and local partners. We're going to focus on expanding DREs. We will continue to try and be a source of restoration for those communities. We're going to do everything we can to step up in any way we can to help them recover. Any questions?
Any questions?
We can talk later, but I was just interested in the 32 industry recognized credentials that they earned, like which ones those fell under or which ones they were.
Many of them are CDL. Some of them are allied health, and there are some heavy equipment as well.
Anybody else? Yes.
Were you leveraging or braiding this with some of the regular?
We were
Title-
braiding Title I funding. We didn't on paper braid with the tribe, but what we did is we coordinated what they were paying for with what we could come in and pay for. So we worked side by side, but you know, that was trying to figure out how to truly braid that funding was a little more difficult than I was capable of. That's a very convoluted. I can do it pretty much across anything else, but when you start getting into the tribes, it gets very complicated.
Do you see some of this? I mean, I recognize this was very focused in terms of a response, but do you feel like some of the programs are able to be, for lack of a better word, institutionalized or scaled up, even with some of the reduced funding that's coming from WIOA?
Some of it, yes. The programs, yes. Those can be done. The one that's a challenge is the disaster relief employment. That's the hardest one, and that's because there's so much funding from different organizations coming in that, you know, for example, we had a trailer park where FEMA and DOT and all the organizations had gone in and they removed all the debris right up to the front door. But there were significant amounts of limbs, trash, all of this under the units. And nobody could touch that. So we were able to work to help, or we were in the process of being able to do that when the next round of floods hit. And so it's trying to find those niches because you also have very significant restrictions on private property. But yeah, we were able to find some, but not as many as we would have liked.
Any other questions or comments? Online? Well, I don't really have a question, but maybe it's more of a comment. I hadn't realized how big of a part the Eastern Board played in the recovery effort. So I appreciate you coming and letting us know. I wonder if there are lessons learned through this experience that you can share with the other regions, because unfortunately, I think this might happen in other areas. And so perhaps there are some things that we can prepare for before these things happen.
I would love to. And I think that that's probably a pretty lengthy conversation that you may or may not want to have here. But I think one of the strongest things I can say for the other local boards is to really work with your partners and understand where their lines are and what can and cannot be done with them and how the two can really mesh together. But then as a state system and so forth, I think it would be very beneficial to I know one of the sector strategies was trying to be held at a disaster response meeting. That whole disaster response topic is something that really needs to be focused on, because with the various secretaries and organizations that you have on this board, working with that disaster response team, they know their individual regulations and they know their stuff. So if everybody's working together to say, okay, this can be done with this funding and this can be done so that, I mean, you're not going to have a blow by blow response, but at least if you can identify the lanes where so that you have something that is a little more written out, a little bit of a playbook or a guidebook per se, I think it would enable a response to happen not only more quickly, but more effectively, more importantly, more effectively.
Well, thank you for that. Any final questions or thoughts? All right. Well, thank you very much, Beth.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. So that was our partner presentation. Now we're going to move into our official roll call. We have the roll call a little bit later on our agenda today, just because we want to ensure that everybody has that time to get here, and so that we don't have to wait for quorum. So we'll move on into that. If we can go ahead and start the roll call, please.
Okay. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. Senator Michael Padilla. Representative Doreen Gallegos. Chair Joshua Orozco.
Present.
Casey Durad.
Present.
Rebecca Estrada.
Present.
Debbie Moore. Okay. Carlos Romero.
Present.
Mathis Shinik. Luis Reyes.
Present.
Terry Stewart.
Present.
Patricia Chavez.
Present.
Erica Genti.
Present.
William Wagner.
Present.
Beth Williams.
Present.
Arlene Murillo.
Present.
Carl Adams. Paul Espinosa. Sabrina Ezell.
Present.
Carla Kugler.
Present.
Kelly Ropke Ort. Secretary Nair. Amber Gallup.
Okay.
Amber Gallup. Director Greg Trapp.
Present.
Commissioner Sanchez.
Present.
Okay. Deputy Secretary Scott Krasinski.
Here.
Deputy Secretary Marcos Martinez.
Here.
Cabinet Secretary Rob Black. Oh, sorry. Designee, Deputy Director Brizzy Gutierrez.
Present.
And designee Patrick Gannon.
Present.
Okay. Carrie Armijo. That's everyone. We do have a quorum.
All right. Thank you for that. Now, well, we've already introduced the new members, but I guess we could go ahead. We've got 30 minutes. If our new members just want to kind of briefly introduce themselves, emphasis on briefly. Let me get my list out. Let's start off with Breezy. Just briefly introduce yourself. Sorry. Somebody's not paying attention.
No, I am. Breezy Gutierrez, Senior Manager at the New Mexico Public Education Department, College and Career Readiness Bureau.
Thank you. Luis Reyes.
Luis Reyes, CEO, K Carson Electric Cooperative in Taos, New Mexico.
Thank you. Teresa Stewart.
Good afternoon, I'm Terry Stewart, I'm the CEO of Synchronous.
Patricia Chavez.
Patricia Chavez, owner, small business owner, PLC Enterprises.
Erica Genti.
Hi there, I'm Erica Genti. I'm the Microlearning Innovation Manager at NMSU and a member of the board for the Better Business Bureau of New Mexico and Southwestern Colorado.
William Wagner.
I'm Bill Wagner. I'm founder and director of Central Savila. We're an outpatient behavioral health program in Albuquerque. Glad to be here.
Beth Williams.
Hi, I'm Beth Williams, President and CEO of the Bridge of Southern New Mexico.
And we've got Arlene Murillo. She is on the road, so I don't want to disrupt her. She is the founder of Love of Rose LLC. She's with us, but I don't want.
Yes,
Arlene?
thank you. Yes. Yes, owner of Love of Rose, and I serve Southern New Mexico.
Thank you. All right, so that's the introduction of new members. Let's move on to the approval of the agenda. First off, do we have any changes to the agenda? All right, not seeing any. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as is?
I also approve the agenda as is.
Thank you, Paul. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Add Rebecca Estrada with the quick second. And what we'll do is we can do a voice vote for those of us in the room. And for those online, we'll do a roll call vote. So all those in favor of approving the agenda as is, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to the roll call for, I guess I can do it. Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Arlene Murillo.
Yes.
Did I miss anybody? All right, with that, the agenda has been approved. Now moving on to the approval of our minutes. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes from March? And if there are no changes, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you, Dr. Azell, with the motion, and is that Casey with the second? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Again, in the room, all those in favor of approving the minutes as is, please say aye. Any opposed? Now moving to online, Commissioner Sanchez, how do you vote?
Yes.
And Ms. Murillo, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, minutes are approved. Whew, going through this really quickly. All right, now, generally every meeting we have a new policy to approve. And this comes to us from our policy committee. So we've got the DWS 25-001 customized training activities. And is that going to be you, Carla?
Yeah, I'll kick us off.
All right.
If anybody else can jump in if they want to. So you should have before you the customized training activities policy. The purpose of this policy is to help the basically skills up, right? So employers that are employees that need a skilling up to either to get a raise, or also dislocated workers, if there's a specific particular skill that they need, this money is for them in order to be able to access that money. This guidance is for the local workforce boards. Just as a side note, so the policy really hadn't been touched since 2017 or not been accepted, but quite honestly, there wasn't a whole lot of changes to it. So we did go through it. We added just things for you to pay attention to. So the very, I guess the bottom of definitions, the old policy actually did have in there about an employee not earning a self-sufficient wage as a qualification for getting this type of funding. We questioned what the self-sufficient wage was. Be it known, of course, our workforce solution partners had that answer, and it is actually calculated every year. So we wanted to add that definition so people would understand that what a self-sufficiency wage was. So that is there in there. There were a few federal guidelines as far as unallowable costs that were added. So down at the very bottom, there was the 3 unallowable costs that were added, which again is a WIOA requirement. And the strategy for eligibility criteria, which was also added. The forms were updated. The employer regulatory requirements were added. Again, that was a federal guideline that we needed to update. And with most policies, right, adding the performance accountability and the conflict of interest to make sure that that was in there. But other than that, that was, the policy is fairly straightforward. And if the policy committee wants to chime in on anything that I may have missed. It's been a while. We've been working on a separate policy, so I've slept since this policy was actually reviewed and looked at. So I had to go back and review it myself, but.
Any
Thank you,
other?
Carla. She didn't miss any updates, so thank you.
Great job, Carla. Any questions? All right, so just again, for new members and for existing members, this is a policy of the State Workforce Development Board. Start off with a policy statement. Why are we doing this? The purpose, again, why? The scope, what does this cover? The definitions. There's a lot of information. I won't go over everything. There's a lot of information packed in here, but it's a very well organized document. And then this filters down from the state to the local boards. So just kind of very brief overview of what our policies do. Any other comments, questions? All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve DWS 25-001 customized training activities?
I so moved, Rebecca Spell.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is there a second? Thank you, Paul. All right. Then all in the room, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Now moving online, Commissioner Sanchez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mrs. Murillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. All right. Policy has been approved. Great job, Policy Committee and staff. All right, next up, we have the approval of the State Workforce Board Open Meetings Act resolution. So as a, what do we call this? Semi-governmental body. We are required to follow the Open Meetings Act of New Mexico. And since this is the first meeting of the fiscal year, we are required to reapprove it. Basically, it's a document that says this is how we are going to operate and comply with the Opens Meetings Act. Very rarely does it change. It does change from time to time. I think the last time we updated it to have more room for virtual attendance, something like that. But very rarely does it change. So with that, has everyone had a chance to review that? And if so, is there a motion to approve the State Workforce Board Open Meeting Act resolution?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Greg. Is there a second?
I'll second. Carla.
Thank you, Carla. Any questions on that one? I kind of blew through that. Okay. Not hearing any, then let's move on to a vote. All those in a room, please, if you vote in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Please say nay. All right. Moving online, Commissioner Sanchez, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. And Mrs. Murillo, how do you vote?
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Our Open Meetings Act resolution has been approved. Now we're moving on to committee updates. As we mentioned earlier today, we have a number of committees, and here we get updates on their work in progress since our last meeting. let's start off with the policy committee. Carla?
So the policy committee has been working on the local governance policy. And that this policy is obviously the guidance for the appointment of the local boards. And it outlines the roles and the responsibilities and the authority for the chief elected official for those roles. We've met, I don't even know, we've met a lot. This has been a lot. It's not ready for prime time. I'm sure it will be in one of the next two meetings that we are be ready to present. Not only were there some with every policy that we do, and I'm going to credit Deputy Secretary Kraginski for being our grammar police, making sure that everything is, if something needs to say shall instead of must, it needs, we shall change that.
That came from a directive from our attorney, just to be clear.
And making sure that things are, and which grateful that things are consistent. And that if we're gonna change the wording, we need to make sure that that's changed, but it's been a lift and that's what we've been working on. And we hope that you will see that we will be able to present that policy probably before we end our requirements for the meetings for the year.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Carla?
No, I think I would just add at some point, because you mentioned the CEOs, and I know we did talk about the structure earlier today, and it's on the poster, which I have looked at very closely. But I just know at some point we may want to talk about the role of the CEO. We don't have to do it today, but just the role of the CEO board versus the role of the workforce boards, because it's part of that whole structure in terms of how they.
It's probably a good idea. I think, I mean, or if it was, as for everything that we do with the policy committee, if it's unclear to us, it's probably unclear to a lot of people, and how that structure works. So it might not be a good idea, even for the whole board to kind of understand the structure. Yeah.
And we touched on it today, but at some point we may.
That's a very good point. And we weren't able to get to that. So since we're using the term or the acronym CEO, it's not chief executive officer in this context. It is chief elected official. And so all the local boards have a local board made up of community members, but then they also have a chief elected official board, which actually receives the money. But so just FYI, but we will get into that probably when we go over the policy. So stay tuned. All right. Any questions for our policy committee? All right. Hearing none. Thank you, Carla. Sorry, I was about to go into a vote there. We don't need one. All right. Moving into our business engagement committee. Casey.
Okay. First of all, Mathis Shinnick was leading this group and stepped down. I stepped up, and it's taken a little bit of where we're getting going with my wonderful team from the Department of Workforce Solutions. And the key vision for this, the business engagement committee is the business engagement. And as we got restarted, we realized we needed to recruit more of these business leaders that can represent some of the priority sectors. And I know for those of you that the directors that were part of the orientation on page 63 of the notebook is the priority sectors. And so I've been, some of the team have been recruiting outside of the workforce board directors to get some representation of these industry sectors. And I think earlier today with the new members, I've recruited a few more. And so we'll get these meetings started in November, probably have about a month. We're planning to meet monthly. And so we'll get going and at least have a group meeting in November, then December, and then keep going, hopefully.
Thank you. Any questions for Casey? And thank you for pointing out that this was led by Mathis, who was doing a great job. Unfortunately for us, but I guess fortunately for him, we started getting a lot of business out on the East Coast. So he had to step back a little bit from the role. He's still part of this board and still part of the committee, but he didn't have the time to be chair anymore. So thank you to Casey for stepping up very quickly. And she is running with it. So.
And I
thank you.
have a helper from my team, Kathy Steen, who is leading a lot of our workforce programs for New Space Nexus. So she's helping to make sure I have enough time to get everything done. But look forward to you directors that have talked to me that are going to be part of it.
All right. Thank you. Now moving on to our Education and Workforce Committee. Kelly Robke Orth is out of the country, I believe. Yeah, she's at a conference, so she can. Oh, okay. Not outside of the country. She's in the state, but outside of the room.
She's in Arizona.
Oh,
She's the May
she's not that
conference.
far.
Yeah.
Regardless, she's not in the room, but she's otherwise engaged. So we're going to have Deputy Secretary Roginski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And yes, Kelly sends her regrets. She was hoping to be here but couldn't. And just briefly, a few of the updates from the Education and Workforce Committee. We've been focusing on our actionable goals. And one was to work on a state proclamation signed by the governor recognizing, designating September to 2025 as Workforce Development Month. And that was real exciting. We were able to amplify the importance of workforce development in the media across the state last month. So that was great. Second, we collaborated with the Healthcare Authority, HCA, on their employment and training program, ENT, to provide labor market information for their recipients and also discuss ways they can connect more closely with our workforce systems. Third is that we have been helping to inform the DWS employer survey and make some recommendations for potential changes. And those will be considered here in the next few weeks. And lastly, we've also been identifying other measurable goals to act on, including coordination and expansion with the integrated education and training programs, IET, they heard about from Beth earlier. Second, hoping to increase tribal engagement in the workforce. And third, increase the support and collaboration with women as leaders in construction. So those are just a few of our priorities, and we're going to continue to focus on those. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Scott? All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Next up is the Data and Performance Committee. This is a committee we need to get going. It currently does not have a chair. I don't know if anybody is interested. I'm going to keep bugging some of you for that. This, as we learned this morning, this committee is in charge of reviewing the performance of the local boards, the state as a whole, as well as just reviewing data, labor data from around the state, helping inform the board on different things that we should be doing, giving us some priorities. There's a lot that can be done with this. Did you want to?
I have some things to add, but go ahead, Chair.
Go ahead.
Okay. We will be sending out, the team has been working on some data that aligns with the sector strategy and our current training providers. And so it'll show how many institutions align with our sector strategies, how many of those training programs are on our eligible training provider list. So it's a really good breakdown and visual of everything aligning to our sector strategy. So we are doing that quarterly. So we'll be sending out Q3 information, and then we'll send out the Q4 information. We'll also be sending out the annual performance results. Those were have already been calculated and submitted to Department of Labor, and so we'll have some slides on where we landed as a state with our quiz time. How many primary indicators? 6 over our 6 primary indicators. So it'll show And then it'll also break it down by region, how each region either met, exceeded, or possibly failed one of their measures. We'll be sending that out as well. And then there was a third one, performance measures. Oh, we also, as a requirement from Department of Labor, have to submit a annual eligible training provider report, performance on that. We didn't dive into that this morning. So we'll send you also the results of last program years eligible training provider performance. This directly impacts the training providers who are on the eligible training provider list. So they have to also meet a performance standard. So we'll be giving you some data, even though we don't have a strong committee right now, but we still want to be able to share the information via email.
Thank you. Any questions for me or Veronica? All right, let's move on to the next one. So earlier this year, gosh, I can't remember anymore. We had a member of our customer of our system reach out to a few board members. This person was having some difficulty. They had enrolled in the system, but there was a change in the person that was actually handling their case, and this person kind of just fell through the cracks. If I'm remembering correctly, it seems like such a long time ago. And fortunately, the problem was resolved. But what we realized was maybe it was an opportunity for us to review how we do the participant enrollment process. To kind of review that process and see where some improvements can be made. And so we thought, well, maybe we can create an ad hoc committee to kind of look at this process. So I don't think it's going to be a whole lot of work. I don't think it's going to be a very long-term project. It maybe require a couple of meetings, but is anybody interested in being part of that process? Again, this is not going to be a huge lift, but just to see what is the process for somebody enrolling for services and where can we make those improvements? Is anybody interested in joining them? Beth, thank you. I'll be a part of it. Luis, thank you. Breezy, okay. Anybody else? Okay, that's fine. We'll also send out an email to see if anybody else would like to participate in that. Thank you. So that will be ongoing, and we'll set up those meetings and get moving. Likewise, if any of the new members or any existing members are interested in any of our committees, please reach out to me, any of the committee chairs, any staff. We will help connect you with those meetings. It's, as you can see, there's a lot of work that happens at the committee level. This board has not been able to meet since March, but you can see from the reports, a lot has been a lot of work has continued to happen. So these are very important to what we're doing. So if you are interested, please let us know. Same with the data committee. If we don't find a chair today, I will temporarily chair it just to kind of get things moving. I shouldn't have said that because now nobody's going to say yes.
We heard
it. But we do want to get that up and running again. So please reach out and let us know. Thank you. All right, so moving on to NMDWS updates. First, we've got our legislative update. Second be you, Mark?
Yes, nothing to this one.
All right. Now the aligned case management. Do we have a report on that? I've got Raquel.
Yes, we have Raquel here.
talk about it. I know we're short on time. No, it's okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Raquel Gomez, Special Projects Coordinator with the Department of Workforce Solutions. And I oversee a handful of programs and initiatives in the department that aren't reoccurring. So aligned case management is one of them. Early 2024, we had submitted an application to NASWA, the National Association of State Workforce Agencies, for an initiative called Aligned Case Management Institute in an effort to better create a customer service experience for folks that walk into America's job centers. Because with so many different partners, we have different case management systems that don't talk to each other. So the way we would refer and currently still refer participants from one program to another if they need help with housing or transportation, or they walk in and they would be a good candidate for DVR or Title II. It was a lot of emails. It was a lot of folks, falling through the gaps. So with this institute, we brought together representatives of the 4 boards and all of the partners. And we held 4 sessions over the course of 6 months with the help of NASWA and the Workforce Information Technology folks of NASWA. And we had 4 different sessions where we identify the challenges, identify opportunities, and come up with a framework and actually design what this system would look like. And as partners, as workforce partners, we named it UPIN, or the Unified Partner Information Network. And at this point, it was just a concept. Now, fast forward to the last legislative session, Secretary Nair was able to secure $750,000 for the department to actually move forward with this initiative, and some technology money. So we met with a few different, thank you for the presentation. Okay. So we met with a few different providers. The first was Unitas. Unitas has a big footprint in New Mexico. They have a presence in northern New Mexico through WIN. Santa Fe, they are being utilized by Presbyterian, the city of Santa Fe County, all the way down the Rio Grande corridor down to Doña Ana County. So we met with Unitas and we contracted a 3-month pilot with them and identified 3 different offices to pilot this system in. It was Clovis down in southeastern New Mexico, where there wasn't a current Unitas presence, to see what that process would look like to be able to recruit organizations into the program. We used Santa Fe because Santa Fe office is a true one-stop where we have all of the partners available, and it was a great opportunity to see what that would look like. And our Espanola office, because we had outside organizations in the surrounding area that would be able to participate as well. So we went through the whole process with the help of our project managers and our IT team to bring folks on board for 3 months, March through the end of June. And within that time, we had met with the healthcare authority, who is currently contracting with Find Help to be their closed loop service provider. Which provided us an opportunity to be able to work with Find Help and say, all right, now we have this other contender, what can you do? So we piloted Find Help in those same offices where they created a sandbox environment for the same staff. And we were able to compare both systems. And I know I'm going really fast. I know we're out of time. So if you have more questions, I'd love to share more. But after the pilot and the sandbox environment, we are in the middle of writing a recommendation to the secretary so that we can make a choice of which platform we'd like to use for the Unified Partner Information Network. But in a nutshell, once that decision is made, we will be working with our 4 workforce boards to implement this system so that we can have a true closed loop referral system, eliminate people from falling through the gaps and provide accountability for the staff making those referrals. So we'll know who is being serviced, what they're being serviced with, and ensure that they're receiving all of the services that they're asking for, but also what they're eligible for. We've hired a full-time project manager to do the people and processes, working with all of the partners on creating standard operating procedures, working with all of the partners to ensure that everybody understands expectations, everybody is on board. And we're really excited to get started, probably in the next few weeks. I think we're waiting for a decision to be made. But a lot of work has gone into it, and we're really excited to be able to enhance the customer service experience for folks walking into our America's Job Centers and that are part of our workforce system.
Thank
Any
you.
questions?
Any questions? All right. And are you also covering sector strategies?
Do you want?
Oh, no?
I am also doing sector strategies, but she says don't do it.
Okay.
I'm telling her she doesn't have to do it because we covered most of it this morning. We talked about the places that we're doing the sector strategies at with energy. So it was mostly covered this morning, so we don't need to
Got
have
it.
Raquel go over it again.
Thank you, Raquel. All right, and now we have a participant case update.
Yeah, very short and sweet too. The chair briefly talked about the participant that had reached out, so he gave a great little update on that. We heard from the participant just recently. I think it was like September 28th. We had heard from him. He gave a lot of good feedback. He said that he could really tell that some things had changed, some processes had been they can't think of the word, but implemented. Some processes had been implemented. And so tying all three together, this ad hoc committee, the line case management, and the individual, all three are one and the same. And so it's the line case management really is to help resolve this type of situation with our customers. The ad hoc committee is going to be really helpful to kind of see the gaps that we don't see because we do the work every day. And so from an outside perspective, what may be missing so that we don't have customers having to reach out and say, hey, I'm not getting the help that I get, or the system is just too draining to try to access services. So that's the update.
Any questions? All right, thank you, Veronica. Okay, next up, we've got chair and board comments. So this is a chance for you to just comment on anything you would like. If you want to have or want to give us any news, that's fine. So are there any comments from the board this meeting? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to share that the higher education institutions received their first allotment of GROW funding this past year, FY25, which was $20 million. And there's a $60 million total, so we'll get that for 3 years. And it was very successful. And I think a lot of the programs that were funded addressed non-credit workforce needs. So I just wanted to share that it was very successful. I think we had around 70% of the money was expended that was received. And I think they had it was a very high completion rate, around 95% of all the participants. So just wanted you to know that that was a very positive program that was initiated last year. And we'll have it through 2027. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Azell. And I think I had Greg next.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I don't know if the microphone is picking me up here. So I've got 3 quick things. I want to mention that October 15 was Disability Employment Awareness Month. The Workforce Solutions Department was very involved in that, especially Stacy and Karen and Chiquita. Appreciate that support. Was some excellent publicity related to that event. It took place at the Bonifacio Development Center here in Albuquerque. Second item for the vocational rehabilitation program, Title IV programs, the Commission for the Blind and the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. We are continuing to operate despite the federal shutdown. We are doing that through the use of federal fiscal year 25 carryover funds. So we're open and providing services. And then lastly, we are going to be entering into the interim state plan update process for the Commission for the Blind. We'll have a public meeting in Santa Fe and over Zoom on November 14 to gather public input on the commission's portion of our combined state plan.
Thank you, Greg. And then Scott, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up, and Sabrina, thank you for mentioning the Grow Fund. The Higher Education Department just released a report documenting all the specifics of that fund. So just to reinforce what you were saying, if people are interested, it's a really, I thought, thorough and informative report, and talks all about how the $20 million was spent in the first year.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, I'll make mine very brief. Thank you again, everybody. I think I've said that over and over, but truly, I appreciate everybody being here. It's been a long day, but I think very valuable. So thank you. All right, moving on to public comment. Do we have any public comments for this meeting?
We did get one public comment emailed to us. Is Nicole Martinez here?
Is who here?
Nicole Martinez was the name on the public comment that was emailed to us.
Is it from, say where she's from?
No, it doesn't say where she's from.
Did they put the comment in the email?
Yeah.
Oh, it's my question.
Read that out loud.
You just want to read it? Yeah, that's the question.
Okay.
Okay. So this was emailed to us and she says, "Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Martinez and I wish to make a public comment at the board hearing this October 30th regarding WIOA grants. How do people go about receiving them for the state of New Mexico? Where is the information located for those interested? I go to the website and it kind of seems like I just go in circles. Other states seem to provide these grants to individuals. It seems like maybe these grants are only for employers and not for employees looking to achieve higher education. Hoping for some clarification how I can receive one of these grants for flight certifications. Thank you."
All right, well, that's a very good comment because we're getting information that it's too difficult for our people in our state to access these programs. So we can certainly reach out to her and help her find access to those programs, but also it's a reminder to us that we need to kind of figure out how do people overcome that barrier, so.
Kind of
Alright.
goes back to our participant case study, right?
Yeah,
Like, if
yeah.
they don't know how to do it, then we're not serving who we need to serve. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, maybe it's the website issue, like
We had it. Yeah.
yeah, I had it, I'm now on board, so maybe there was just some confusion with her going to the wrong place, so.
it seems like something the
Ad hoc.
ad hoc participant
Yeah.
There we go.
enrollment committee can focus on. Great. Seeing no other public comments, we are at the end of our agenda. Again, thank you, everybody. If there are no objections, then we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.